it seems like we've kind of peaked as far as people's tolerance for factory-made guitars a little bit. I mean, some of the big makers in recent years have launched very sort of modern, very high-tech guitars that they thought would propel them into the future, and they were huge flops. And so do you feel that going forward we're going to see a little bit of a return, even with the big makers, Gibson and Fender and, Washburn and PRS, going back to more of this kind of working with their hands, or at least for what they can produce in that many instruments, and more people like you popping up, small business owners who build guitars in their home shops, rather than just the continuous growth of three companies that dominate the market. I mean, it's going to be more guys like you in the future because we're kind of getting back to that, let's make guitars by hand and have really quality instruments again, rather than let's push out 3 million of them a year overseas and then we'll sell them really cheap.
Well, there's something, a consumer can connect to that. They can connect to the fact that this item, this object that I'm buying for a lot of money, was built through somebody's hands, and it was created, and it means something. It means something more to, and there's energy in it, and it's involved. I don't want to get all, crazy about it, but when you kind of give birth to something and work on something, it has an energy, and you pick it up, and you can, sometimes people can pick it up and they feel instantly like that's their guitar, and there will always be the room for factory-made instruments because people want an instrument that costs $100, so there's a certain range that those things will always exist, but at a certain point I think the small business owners, and the artisans can really make the client more happy than a factory could ever do.
What other types of guitars are you involved in? You mostly talked about archtops today, but what other kinds of guitars are you making or interested in?
I'm interested in classical guitars. I just started a line of electric guitars, but my goal, and I have experience with everything. A long time ago, I did tons of electric guitar repair work, which is to me not so fun, but now it's work, and my goal is to meet a consumer or meet a client, and make a connection with them and work on something as for me to bring them as close as they can to the process seems to be like a really great way of making the instrument more theirs and making it a unique process. And I know some people don't want to do that. Some people just want to order a guitar, which is great. But I feel the same way with my classical guitars. And even though it's a different guitar, my thought process and the constructions throughout is always the same. And that just comes through, doing things by hand and having a really a good eye. My boss told me when I was learning, he's like, the first day I walked in, he said, if I can train you to see correctly, then you will be successful here. If I know I can teach you how to use tools, that's not a problem. But if I can teach you how to see things right, then you'll be successful. If you can't, then so it's all visual. It's a mixture of things, but you need to be able to see things, and so that crosses the board with classical guitars, electric guitars, and absolutely my archtop guitars. But I kind of like to work with my clients, and I don't say no. So